Today, we'll explore the exciting world of robotic-aided surgery, where new technologies let doctors repair the human body in ways never seen before.
We'll roll with the riders at the Great America Amusement Park and find out how high-tech tools are keeping customers happy and safe.
And we'll gaze into the crystal ball with PG&E and IKEA to see how they're teaming up to save energy.
All of this, plus the guru of gigabytes himself, our very own Rob Enderle.
All coming up in this edition of Tech Closeup.
Everything I do is based upon technology and trying to take advantage of it.
Especially in this race, technology has made some giant advances.
I think that our whole entire world has come down to a lot of technology.
What, you ask, does technology have to do with a bicycle race? Just ask a bike mechanic at the Amgen Bike Tour that pits over 10 dozen world-class cyclists in a 650-mile race down the California coast.
Lots of details that we take into consideration just to increase performance by as little as 1%.
A lot of science goes into race bikes. Gone are those one-size-fits-all bikes of the old days. No heavy steel here. Instead, these bikes are light, composite carbon.
And one of the things you'll note is the aerodynamic shape of the tubes. This makes the bike slice through the air a lot quicker than a normal bicycle would.
Robot technology, it's moving fast. Well, maybe not quite that fast, but we do know it's going to change our lives.
We're trying to build a robot that's useful to project your hands into some remote environment, either because that environment's dangerous or because you don't want to travel there.
Meet Trevor Blackwell, the brains behind a company called AnyBots, where anything goes if you want to see robots that look and behave like human beings.
The initial applications are going to be those really dangerous, cost is no object kind of jobs dealing with radioactive materials and biological hazards, where you just really don't want to send a person in to do it.
It just seems like a real high-tech go-kart.
That is an understatement. Champ cars team up sports and science. Under race rules, all the cars are the same. Same engines, same brakes, same tires. The difference comes down to brains.
And we really didn't want to make this a race of money. We wanted to make this a race of the engineering team and the drivers and the technology.
CDW, the technology company, backs Justin Wilson's race team. They fitted his car with 100 sensors to monitor the engine, tire pressure, fuel, even heat in the brakes.
Having all the sensors allows us to monitor everything, work out the speed of the car and see where you can improve it. It's quite a valuable asset.
After every race, computers turn the sensor's data into a digital replay. The data lets engineers rerun the race on key car parts to see if they can make them any better.
Through Champ Car regulations, you can't go buy a better shock. You can't go buy a better tire or a better engine. You have to use what's given to you.
You might call this inventor's heaven.
It's a gym for inventors, you know, and I come in and I feel instantly, there's just calm.
I guess I am a geek, and this definitely is a playground.
Now, people turn into kids again when they're here.
Here is Tech Shop, a pay-as-you-go dreamland for Silicon Valley inventors, geeks, and anybody with the will to find a high-tech way. Anyone of any age.
What is that?
It's a fan.
A fan?
Yeah. What's really special about the fan is the fact that he learned how to solder. That was the most important part of it. So all the soldering is done himself.
It's very exciting for geeks and nerds like we all are to actually have a place like this where other geeks and nerds hang out on a regular basis. Because there really aren't places like that around.
Jim Newton, Northern California scientist, design engineer, and survivor of the dot-com bust. He founded Tech Shop to give Silicon Valley do-it-yourselfers another place to tinker besides a basement or a garage.
I found out that people really had fun, you know, working with all this heavy-duty equipment.
What a web we've got! So much video, so many sites, so much to see and do. What a racket out there! How do they send so much down so many thin wires.
In the last year or so, we've had customers saying because of all the video and because of all the social networking, they're seeing growth rates that could be 80 to 120% per year.
All that internet led to all this. A Silicon Valley company with a name you probably never heard of. It's called Infinera.
Well, it's kind of funny as a marketing guy because we're never going to go off and do big ad campaigns or put billboards up on the highway because there's maybe 3,000 people in the world that we really care about. We really care about those buyers of this sort of technology for the big networks.
Our goal is not to be known by consumers around the world. Our goal is to be known by telecommunication service providers who have networks to build and economic problems to solve.
Without Infinera, you might not have all the social networking sites that let you share so much video, so many pictures, so many personal stories. They'd still be there, but perhaps not as many.
We're enabling a whole new paradigm for communication. So people go to YouTube and browse Britney Spears videos or things like that, little clips that they don't even think about how much bandwidth they're using. That wouldn't be possible if the internet didn't provide for a scalable means of providing lots of bandwidth cost effectively.
Someone want to get the IV going?
Second-year med students crowd around a sick patient who needs help fast.
What kind of oxygen do we want to put them on?
But unlike a real emergency room, this one has a one-way glass wall in back where doctors behind the scenes can watch and evaluate students from a high-tech control room.
When we get a patient, we have to multitask. We have to get history, do a physical exam, and start therapy kind of all at once.
The patient? A real, breathing, talking dummy.
It is obviously a little scary to have the actual patient there when you're learning for the first time. And I think it makes a lot of sense to learn on someone where you can't really harm them. So.
The dummy is part of this integrated high-tech simulation lab at Stanford Hospital's Goodman Learning Center. Here, some of the world's best and brightest students have to think and act like this is the real deal.
And it's totally different from what you're exposed to earlier on in medical school when it's just either a textbook or a generic lecture. It allows you to get hands-on and practice before you actually have to treat a patient.
What we try and do is concentrate on the things that you can't adequately teach with real patients. We don't want to be the simulators when we're patients in the hospital. We want people to be trained on the very challenging situations, both as early learners and as they're experienced in the simulator, where if they make mistakes, they can learn from the mistakes but not hurt somebody. And by using these technologies and these techniques to fill the gaps of what we can't teach in the traditional ways, we can really get the best of both worlds.
Dr. David Gaba is a pioneer in mannequin-based medical simulation. He literally reinvented the whole practice, he says, in the 1970s, when the U.S. military all but abandoned its efforts in the area.
We were the ones to realize that we could do the same kinds of things in healthcare that were being done in fields like aviation.
Hi. Hobbling into her own office on crutches, Dr. Andrea Prost suddenly finds herself the patient.
Stand up here.
Okay.
Facing the TV.
Okay.
Dr. Prost is getting an MRI to find out how badly she hurt her knee in a weekend soccer accident.
I went after the ball and my leg got stuck in a gopher hole and my body went the other way and I heard this snapping and felt a pop in my knee and knew that I had damaged something pretty severely.
So, for the first time, Dr. Prost gets to benefit from the very machine she educates other doctors about. And it all starts with her standing up.
Most people don't lie down most of the day. They're either standing, sitting, doing something like that.
Which is why Dr. Prost is not about to get a traditional MRI. You know, the often loud, uncomfortable kind, where you lie down for a long time in a tiny, dark tube. Well, now, new technology from an East Coast-based company called Phonar is changing the way doctors use magnetic resonance imaging.
To be able to image that patient in the position that produces pain or discomfort is a huge variable that's never been available before.